You're listening to the Sex and Psychology Podcast, the sex ed you never got in school and won't get anywhere else. I am your host, Dr. Justin Lehmiller. I am a social psychologist and research fellow at the Kinsey Institute and author of the book, Tell Me What You Want, The Science of Sexual Desire and How It Can Help You Improve Your Sex Life. We tend to think of love as something that just happens. You meet the right person, you feel that spark, and everything else just falls into place. However, love isn't just something that you find and that comes effortlessly. It's something that you build over time. So what actually makes love last? Why do some relationships thrive over time while others slowly fall apart, even when the feelings were strong in the beginning? In this episode, we're taking a closer look at how lasting love can be designed. We're going to break down 6 essential ingredients that form the foundation of healthy, enduring relationships, from attraction and trust to shared vision and the everyday behaviors that keep love alive. My guest is Dr. Sara Nasserzadeh, an award-winning social psychologist, TED speaker, and relationship expert. Her latest book, Love by Design, 6 Ingredients That Build a Lifetime of Love, introduces the Emergent Love Model, a framework born from research with hundreds of couples across 41 countries, offering a new way to understand how relationships grow and deepen over time. This is going to be another fascinating conversation that you won't want to miss. Stick around and we're going to jump in right after the break. Do you ever find yourself dreaming about a career where you get to talk about sex and psychology all day long? What if I told you there's a place that can connect you with world-class experts and has a large, thriving community? Sexual Health Alliance does just that. Sexual Health Alliance helps you to build the career of your dreams and is at the forefront of sexuality education. Students come from all parts of the world and from all types of backgrounds. Whether you're in school just starting out on your journey or building advanced skills in your profession, Sexual Health Alliance's comprehensive certifications, engaging events, and self-paced online education will move you beyond the basics and set you up to become sexceptional. Visit sexualhealthalliance.com and start building the sexuality career of your dreams today. And let them know that you heard about Sexual Health Alliance on this podcast. Hi, Sara, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm looking forward to talking all things love with you.
Yes.
So let's start with the core premise. You argue that love isn't something that we just fall into. It's something that we can design. So what does that actually mean in practice? And how does that idea challenge the dominant cultural narrative that love should just be effortless?
Yeah. So first of all, love, as we know it, we need to go to the core of the language of it. What I've learned in the clinical practice is when I'm sitting with couples, they say, I love you, I'm in love with you, I'm out of love with you. And that always puzzled me. Are we talking about the same thing? Especially if they speak more than one language. I always ask people to tell me what they know of love. I go to their love blueprint. Who was deserving of love? What was done or not done in the name of love? I'm not giving you money today for lunch because I'm practicing tough love. I'm hitting you today in the name of love. I sacrifice myself for you in the name of love. So I buy you flowers or not in the name of love. So there is so much that is covered until this just little world, that we create through this word. So my mission was to demystify it. But then when you want to take that sacred of a word and so abstract and left to the person's interpretation and try to put it into research, you know that as a researcher. So we need to be as clear as possible. So everybody who reads the questionnaire knows what we're talking about, all that. So to do that, I needed to first deconstruct what love was, all of our blueprints around the world as much as I had access to, and then reconstruct it back up based on evidence and also building blocks so that people don't think that love is just for the lucky few. Everybody needs to know that they can actually design and they deserve to design the relationships that they desire, the loving relationships they desire. So that's what I'm promising.
Thanks for sharing that. I love that idea, that way of thinking about love. So, in your book, you talk about the 6 key ingredients of love. So, let's break them down one by one. And we'll start with attraction. Now, people tend to think of attraction pretty narrowly as sexual desire, like, do I want to have sex with this person? But you argue that attraction is about so much more than that. So, can you please explain what you mean by attraction and share some tips with us on how we can sustain and cultivate it in our relationships over time?
Absolutely. So, in one sentence, the way that we learned from our research was attraction for people who practice it well and embody it for all their lifetime is not a fleeting desire. Like sexual chemistry, for example, is a biological impulse that we might have, right? But attraction is, why do you want to be around me at any given day? And it doesn't fluctuate with a desire or my mood or whatnot. It goes back to me. What do I want to be around? So the way that I differentiate it is that if desire is fleeting, really sharp orange color, attraction is a renewable, almost a rainbow, because it has so many different nuances. And it's that desire within you to be around something that is interesting and is going to keep you engaged. And it's going to create that deep interest in you to want to explore ways to be with this person in this moment in time. So you are not going to fall in love once upon a time and have that sexual chemistry and keep it for the rest of your life. It's every day. My couples have to come for this bejesus moment situation. They have to come together every year and then see, why do I want to be around you? Why do you want to be around me? And it goes as simple as little hobbies that we share with each other, little things that we create and build together. So it's on a daily basis and also on the, like a macro and micro level, that why do I want to be around this person and why do you want to be around me? And at the beginning of the relationship, usually there's a reason that we are attracted to a person. And if I want to overgeneralize it into 2 poles of the same spectrum, I'm going to say something. We want to be around people that are far from us because we really don't want to repeat what we are coming from or who we are. We like the person that we are with them. So we go in that route. And on the other side of it, we haven't had something in our lives. Therefore, we are actually walking towards the deficit. Because I didn't have that, I want that in my life. So we are running away or running towards, usually. Is that the dual mechanism that we all have, like push and pull and, hell and heaven, all of that, right? All of that, the duality that is in the fabric of everything that humans believe in. That's the basic part. The other thing is when you come together, the attributes of that person are not going to stay the same. Hopefully, we are not the same person as whatever years ago. Even medically speaking, structurally speaking, every 7 years, we're supposed to get a new set of skeleton, like the bones.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we imagine that the person remains the same within this body, right? So when we stop getting to know each other, into me, I see the intimacy with me. Who am I? What are my values at this point in time? What are my priorities? And then opening up myself to the other person or persons, just to say that into me, you see the parts that I want you to connect with, I want to be celebrated for, and I'm proud of. All of that good stuff. If we do intimacy well, then attraction turns into intimacy, the way that I described it. Then it's a renewable energy rather than just a fleeting desire that I might one day have it or one day not.
I like that way of thinking about it, that attraction is sort of this renewable energy source, right? But it's something that you have to put a little bit of work and effort into maintaining. And, all the things that we're going to talk about when it comes to maintaining love require some intentionality and putting forth some effort in terms of how we make that work.
The thing is, people don't fail in love and relationships because of lack of efforts. Usually they don't know where to put those efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully with this solid research that we have now, we can really help people to say, hey, you have this amount of resource. How about putting it where it matters?
Right. And I think that's a really smart point that, a lot of people do try and do put effort into their relationships, but they're not trying on the right things.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was no roadmap. Who taught us about relationships, right?
Exactly. So, you say that respect is one of the most essential but often overlooked ingredients in long term love. So, what does real respect look like in a relationship? And what are some of the subtle ways that disrespect can creep in over time that we might not even recognize as being problematic?
I'll tell you first what respect is not. Respect is not walking on eggshell, obedience, affirming the other person, validating at any cost, agreeing with them all the time. That's not respect, that's fear. Let's just put that out there. Obedience is not respect.
Hmm.
The way that we learned from our research in the thriving relationships, respect as a word is to see again, to look again. So meaning that you don't take yourself or anybody else for granted. You keep listening, tuning in. You don't assume that, oh, I know you did that gesture, so that's what you want. So that's what respect is not. So be very present and keep the priorities of the other person in mind. I still have couples that come to me and say, oh, we love each other, not in love with each other. And then when we break it down, it goes back to respect.
Hmm.
So how many times do I need to tell you that I do not like, for example, this kind of food? And you still manage to book that restaurant? Or for example, when you cook, you just cook for yourself, you eat as if I don't exist? Or little things on a daily basis that shows the other person that your priorities don't matter to me. I don't really see you. The other thing is people tell me that they don't feel respectable by their partners. They're not respected by their partners. And I ask them, are you respectable? And they are on the verge of being offended. They're like, what do you mean, lady? Like, yeah, are you respectable? Do you show up for yourself the way that you want to be treated? Or are your boundaries invitations to show people how to be around you, or solid and harsh borders to keep people away? Are you communicating those boundaries in a loving and firm way, in a kind and firm way, or passive aggressive, like an ultimatum? These are the things that everything that I talk about both perspectives, being respected, being respectful, being respectable, right? So expressed and experienced. Both of these need to be in balance for all of these 6 ingredients to work well, including respect.
That makes a lot of sense. And, you have to respect yourself in order to be respected in your relationship. Now, another part of love, as you describe it, is that in committed relationships, you have to have trust, right? However, when people hear about trust, their mind often goes immediately to things like infidelity and cheating. But your framework goes much deeper than that. So how do you define trust, and how is trust built or eroded in our small everyday interactions?
Right. I love what you said, small everyday interactions. So by the time that couples come to us, they don't usually name it trust unless infidelity happens or a financial betrayal happens, something like that. First of all, when I say trust, as you said, many people, especially in Western Europe and Northern America, say who slept with whom. But that's not that, especially with AI, for example. AI could be that, to bridge the trust. Trust has 2 pillars we found: consistency and reliability. And it happens and cultivated in everyday moments, little moments. Did you close the door when I asked you to? Did you put the garbage out? Did you check if the child has lice when they came back from school that I asked you to? You said yes. And then weeks later, we all end up with lice in our hair. So these are real examples that I hear from my couples. And they say, oh, what's a big deal? It is a big deal. And I'm not asking people to be perfect and consistent all across. I'm not perfect, God knows. But the thing is, when you drop the ball, first of all, try not to. Second of all, I have this thing that I called ARM, that, acknowledge what happened. Oh, I'm so sorry this happened. And then appreciate the impact. I'm so sorry when I didn't close the door, a raccoon came in and then, ate the cheese. Whatever that the thing was, right? So acknowledge what happened. Don't hide it. And then the second one is appreciate the impact it had on you, and on the other person, the whole system. And then you're going to reassurance that we are here together, how can we fix this? And moving forward, having an eye into the future, M at the end is for mend. So you come together and say, let's talk about it, or let's have better strategies in place, or I'm really lousy And remembering this, can we please put a Post-it on my computer so I remember? So the solution, whatever that is, but consistency and reliability are the core pillars of trust. And then committing, showing up for each other and for yourself for that matter. So again, be trustworthy and trusting, two different things.
Mm-hmm. And I think you make a lot of important points there, that it really is these just small little things in everyday life that we might not ascribe a lot of importance to, but when they become this repeated pattern where, for example, you're asking your partner to do something and they don't do it, that can feed into this bigger sense that you can't trust them and that, they're not reliable, and that can become a much deeper issue in the relationship. So yeah, it's really important when we're thinking about trust in relationships to not just be thinking, well, has somebody cheated or not, but thinking about how are we showing up in everyday life with our partners in ways that cultivate that sense of trust. Let me introduce you to Soaking Wet from VB Health. It's a doctor-formulated blend of 2 prebiotics and 3 probiotics that promote total vaginal health, as well as 3 vitamins and minerals that promote vaginal wetness and overall sexual health. VB Health is on a mission to create supplements that work using scientifically backed ingredients. They take quality seriously, with each batch produced and tested by 2 separate third-party labs for safety and effectiveness. They even share their third-party lab results publicly. VB Health is a physician-owned and woman-owned business that has happy customers across all 50 states and over 45 countries. VB Health also just dropped a new product that I'm excited about called Energy Boost. In fact, they have a whole range of supplements to support you both in and out of the bedroom. Make every encounter slipperier, sexier, and downright sensational. It's time to get soaking wet and keep the good times coming, literally. And the best part? Soaking Wet is formulated by doctors at VB Health, and it works. Visit soakingwet.com and use code Justin for 10% off, or click the link in the show notes. So another big one that a lot of people don't think about enough is having a shared vision. So in relationships, we often just assume that our partner is on the same page with us until we discover otherwise. But what does it truly mean to be aligned in a relationship in terms of where it's going? And not just in terms of like big milestones, like if you want to get married or have kids, but your values, your lifestyle, and even the, sort of deeper meaning of the relationship, right? So how do we build that sense of shared vision, and why is that so important in relationships?
Because if you don't know where you're going, all of your priorities and resources will be scattered. Let's say, for example, me and my husband have an agreement that we are going to buy a house in 5 years or have a trip in 2 years, whatever that is, right? When we go to the shop and I want to add to my collection of, I don't know, like the wine glasses, then if he says, hey, Sarah, let's not buy that, it's not an attack on my personality. It's because we are putting the resources towards that bigger goal that we both signed off for. So for me, people who have shared vision, it means that they know where the priorities go. And the priorities, I have 4 categories for them: time, energy, attention, and money. Because these are the ones that we don't have unlimited of, right? Mm-hmm. So on a daily basis, when you have that vision that is well articulated, all of those come together and then makes daily priorities, rather than, you're not having tug of war, or that, oh, this is not fair, this is fair, or something out of that. That's one. For shared vision, also, I need to tell people something. Sometimes I understand, especially with the changing world this fast, around us, the whole thing is changing so fast. It's sometimes difficult to have a very clear vision, most often very difficult. So what I say is, at least you know where you don't want to end up. That is the easier way to get to what you want. At least sit with yourself. What is it that I don't want in life? And try to be very clear about it. Why? Where does this come from? The other thing is with shared vision needs to be communicated with a sober mind. And I mean sober in a broader term, right? Let's say, for example, you go to a party and you are not going to lose it. You're not going to drink. You're not going to get too high, whatever. And you had an agreement. After the first shot, it's out of the window because you are dealing with another person. Then you come home, then a whole big fight, and I see them in my session, right? So it's those moments that erodes on trust and respect right there and there, right? So these are all interconnected. The other thing with shared vision, I tell people be very clear about the definition you assign to compromise, sacrifice, and negotiation. Negotiation is a fact of life. What do we have for dinner tonight? And in an equitable relationship, you shouldn't be afraid to have negotiations often, right? Compromise is you're very clear. What you give, what you receive, what is the bigger vision that you're serving. For example, let's go to your parents this weekend, next weekend at mine, whatever that is, right? And then sacrifice, we keep them limited, very well articulated and time bound, and it's not expected, right? It's celebrated. So for example, if you are sacrificing because in your hidden thought, you think, I'm going to give them this and later on I'm going to be rewarded with that, you won't in most cases. And then resentment brews. So there are lots of ways that the similar words that we use on everyday life, we are redefining them based on the research that we've done. So for example, when you say to people, oh, sacrifice is a fact of any relationship, it actually shouldn't be, right? So these are the things that I want people to go back and really question the status quo. Otherwise, we are in the same situation.
Yeah. And I think everything you explained there really exemplifies how all of these different facets of love work together, right? So if you don't have that sense of shared value with your partner in terms of where the relationship is going, it's easy for you to each engage in behaviors or do things that the other interprets in a negative light. Like, for example, if you go out and spend money in a way that your partner doesn't approve of, then that can feed into trust issues that you might have in the relationship, right? So it is really important to not just focus on one of these pieces, but all of them, because they all definitely feed into one another in some way. Now, next, we have compassion, which might sound straightforward, but it can be incredibly difficult to practice, especially during conflict. So in your book, you describe compassion as both an attitude and a skill. So what does compassion look like in relationships, and how can we learn to practice it more, especially during the really challenging situations?
You're right. It's very difficult to be compassionate, especially the way that we define it in our research. So compassion to me in a relational space is dealing with the situation without making it about yourself. And that takes a lot for you to understand it, especially if you are the cause of the situation, whatever that is, right? So, but if you can master that, I often tell parents, leaders, anybody, by the way, all of these 6 ingredients can be applicable to any relationship that you want to thrive in. Because the way we do one relationship is the way we do them all. We are the common denominator in all of those, right? So many people think empathy is the way to go. Empathy, literally, nervous system-wise, is to resonate with the nervous system of the other person. So you are regulating, co-regulating each other. There's a place and time for it in any relationship with empathy. But the default for thriving couples, we found, is compassion. So being there for the other without making it about yourself. So if the golden rule is to do to the other the way that they, like you want to be treated, compassion is the platinum rule, is be there for the other person the way they want for you to be there for them. And that's one of the things that people get wrong on a daily basis. Because, imagine that you over-empathize with the other person. And I often tell my couples, if you're both bleeding, who gets the Band-Aid? So one person needs to be there to be able to, again, empathizing has its own place. Commiseration has its own place in any relationship. Relating has its own place. All that, sympathy, empathy, all of that. But compassion needs to be the default in thriving relationships.
And so how do we do that more, right? So how do we bring more compassion into everyday life?
So for example, you come to me and then say, Sarah, I had a really bad day, right? And I care about you deeply. So I get really upset with whoever that made your day bad, right? I'm like, damn your boss. And in a moment, I lose it for you. I lose it with you. So I actually take away whatever the healing situation could have been for you, right? Instead of that, I could say, oh, I'm so sorry. It seems like this was a terrible day for you. So do you want to talk about it? And you might say yes or no. And as time goes by, I say, would a hug help? Because I know you. Like as a friend, maybe I know that hug will go a long way with you. You say, not now. Or for example, sometimes compassion looks like calling it out, being attuned with the other person. You walk into the room, your partner is really upset, or your child, or your boss, employee, whatever. They're like, oh, you're not yourself today. You okay? And then the relationship needs to have that foundation for the other person to say yes or no. And then you will take it further. So you pause. You don't jump in based on assumption. What's happening in the moment, what I can offer is going to solve the problem, right? I'm here to save you, to take over the problem from you, or to lose it for you so that you don't lose it. So all of those are not compassion. On a daily basis, pause, pace yourself, and make sure you're regulated before you offer anything to anybody else. In between my sessions, in between any meeting that I transition from, in between any role, like I'm done with the day of Zoom meetings with clients or consulting, whatever that is, I want to go to my family, I take a pause and I say, where am I? And do I have enough to offer in the next role? That's how you invite it in, right? So what's happening here? How much of it is going to spill out into the role that I'm going to step in? That piece of it.
Yeah, I think that's all beautifully said. And I think, a really important piece of this is recognizing and understanding that when we're showing up for our partners, we shouldn't just assume we know what it is that they need. I can think about a recurrent conflict pattern in my own relationship where when I have a problem or something, a bad day, and I want to talk about it with my partner, I just want my partner to listen, right? And empathize. And my partner's approach is always to try and solve the problem for me and say, okay, how do we fix this? And it's like, I don't want solutions. I just want you to listen, right? And this is a pattern that happens in a lot of relationships where the partners just sort of aren't aligned in terms of what it is that they really need in that moment. And a much more effective way of dealing with that issue is to ask the other person what it is that they need instead of just assuming you know what they want.
Yes, or have your best guess. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I hear from my clients that, oh, don't wait for me to tell you. Then what is the difference between you and a stranger? I get that. But then if whatever that they are offering, you're going to veto, at least be prepared to say something, So, okay, so give me space or check back with me in 5 minutes. These are the simple things when I say put your efforts where it matters. So, where they matter, that's another thing. And for that scenario that is very common, I can offer people just a little exercise that I give to my couples. I often tell people, frame any interaction. So you go in and say, so for example, to your partner, it says, hey, do you have a minute? First of all, don't ask for a minute because nothing will take minutes. It's
nothing
longer.
Ever does.
And don't interrupt people to ask for your minute. Especially when people work from home these days, I see that a lot that, they knock or not, they just come into the working space or they work into same desks or same space with each other, depending on their space. And then they just intrude this space. So your partner is working. So for them to come out of that and be fully present with you, it requires a transition. Give them that chance. So I know that you have a pet, so it might not be recommendable for you. But sometimes I tell people that, I have these love squishy hearts that I give to my couples. And I say, look, if your partner is in a position to catch this, it's a good time to talk to them. If you are throwing this squishy heart and they are not in a position to catch it, they're not going to be present for you. So just don't launch into having a conversation. That's one. So make sure that you engage, then start up the conversation, right? So that's one. And then the second thing that you can do is the framing. Hey, I want to talk to you about something. I really want your opinion as my thinking partner. Can you just listen? Okay, I need to vomit. Can you please hold the bucket for me? So whatever that is, come up with your fun ideas and different ways that you want to be there for one another. And once that you discuss it, then it doesn't become awkward in the moment. You can just say, hey, it's that bucket situation right now. Do you mind? So those sort of things that make it lighter and like straight up helps the other person to see how to show up.
I think that's really helpful, practical framing. Now, there's one other piece of your model, which is about loving behaviors, or the idea that love is expressed through what we do, not just how we feel. So I wondered if you could give us some examples of loving behaviors that actually make a difference in sustaining a relationship over time.
Absolutely. Loving behaviors, are actions, they're acts. And it's not that, oh, I don't love you, but I'm going to be loving towards you. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is going out of your way, being tender in your touch, in your words, in your presence, right? Don't be a grumpy lump and then say, I love you. That's not going to work for me because I absorb your energy, right? So the other thing is, as we found in the thriving couples, they do go out of their ways for each other. They give each other benefit of the doubt. They don't assume the worst in one another. And they're very exclusive with the words, with the compliments, with the touch that they give to one another. So I have this example that I give to people that, to be honest, it came out of a session. So we were in a session with a couple through Zoom, and then their dog jumped. And I wasn't quite sure if the person in the couple that was talking to the dog or their partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that they were talking, sweetie, come here. I'm like, who are you talking? Is it to the dog or is it to your partner? So, you need to be very careful with the specific gestures and language and touch that you give to the person that they won't really share with other people, even if other people are in the mix. So this is not just the monogamous, heteronormative model that I'm offering. This for any, because relationships happen in pair bonding, in dyad. So that piece of it I'm talking about. Yeah. So that's loving behavior.
Well, I love that. And we could all use a little bit more of that in everyday life. So thank you for sharing all of this information with us, Sarah. I'm really looking forward to continuing our conversation in the next episode and talking all about how to resolve conflict in relationships in healthy ways. Can you please tell my listeners where they can go to learn more about you and your work and get a copy of your book?
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. This is the book, Love by Design, 6 Ingredients to Build a Lifetime of Love, that they can get it anywhere they get their books around the world. In Kindle, audio is available everywhere. They are all the forms. And also I have a Substack, monthly Substack, The Common Ground by Dr. Sarah, that they can join, read for free or subscribe. Every month I take a topic and I go deeper into that. And I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram under Dr. Sarah Nasserzadeh. And I have a TED Talk that describes all the 6 ingredients that they can watch. And yeah, it's very easy to find me.
Well, I'll be sure to include links to all of that in the show notes. Thanks again so much for your time. I really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much, Justin, for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To keep up with new episodes of this podcast, visit my website, Sex and Psychology, at sexandpsychology.com, or subscribe on your favorite platform, where I hope you'll take a moment to rate and review the show. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, please consider becoming a Sex and Psychology premium subscriber to enjoy ad-free listening for just $3.99 a month. You can also follow me on social media for daily sex research updates. I'm on Blue Sky and X at Justin Lehmiller and Instagram at Justin J. Lehmiller. Also, be sure to check out my book, Tell Me What You Want. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.